Greg Wright joined me on a trip to Costa Rica, and we landed in Liberia and were driven up to a hotel in the hills. It had a nice hot spring area, and that's what we did in the afternoon that day. You can see from the pictures
No, you are not.
that it was warm enough to be outside without your shirts and things on. The water was very warm in the pools, but not as warm in the stream. And it was one way to cool off, and they also had some cold showers as well. There was one spring that was supposed to be 114 degrees, and I went there, and it wasn't very hot. The next day we did canyoning. This has been multiple times for Greg and I to do canyoning together. You can see my perfect rappelling technique here as we do the first run down, dropping off a bridge into a canyon, and then getting in the water and then climbing up a wall using metal hand and footholds, but in a waterfall with the water hitting you with the face very hard the whole time up. My eyes were very irritated after this day. It's very dramatic pictures. Lots of noise. Very, very wet. Now Greg went. He'd been able to watch me, so he learned a little bit. The rope was not long enough to get you to the water, so you had to drop in about the last 6 meters. 6 feet. I'd asked them to make it 4 or 5 meters drop, but they didn't do it. If you stayed to the left on the wall, you didn't have as much waterfall, and so Greg did that and did very well getting up his first time. We did 2 more times each and had to climb up the wall 1 more time. This is the second time, so the video of this. You control the speed with your right hand. I tried to do a nice spread eagle, and it didn't work quite as well. It's very hard to even get to the guy by the wall. The water was a torrent at the bottom. This is the third time. They tried to set it up so we'd be facing outward. And another big splash. Then we swam over to where the photographer was and I waited for Greg. He's now just about to enter the water. There's a short walk through the woods to this next rappel, which was just down a cliffside with the waterfall to the right. We did not get wet on this one. It wasn't very long, but it was still pretty fun. Rappelling is always fun, especially if you're bouncing off the wall. Now we do the waterfall swing. I was really unsure what was going to happen. They pull you back and push you in. The water hits you very, very hard. And then they swing you back and forth. Now, I was getting drilled and my shoes started falling off my left foot. So they were yelling at me. I was trying to fix it. Trying not to let it fall off. I did not want to walk the rest of the day with just one shoe on. Heaven knows where it would have gone. Maybe they would have been able to find it. So at some point you'll see me grab my foot and fix it. Then they try to get me going again, and of course the shoe almost falls off again. So it was still a lot of fun, although it's kind of violent. And as I said, the water is very rough. So you'll see soon the guy comes over and pulls me down. It was a beautiful day, thank heaven. Seems to be lasting even longer than I remember it. So my assistant here is going to pull me in and get me off. You'll see in the picture I look a little frazzled. Greg went with his usual enthusiasm, trying to kick up really high. Fortunately, his shoes were on very securely, so he got to enjoy it without having to fret about losing a shoe. So this was it for the canyoning on Monday. Excuse me, Sunday. So the same team then took us to the area where we started our tubing, which was up a long set of stairs, and our guide Santos showed us how to do it. And then we were off. First it was kind of tranquil and you just have a few easy drops. And then it got quite violent. As the thing says, I fell out twice. The first time was in just a little boiler like this where I flipped over head first and the guy grabbed me and got me back in. The second time I was on my belly trying to go through a slow part and then hit the rapids and fell out so quickly I couldn't believe it and got trapped under the tube and was struggling to get up and got a mouthful of water and finally was able to get my feet under me and stand up and get back into the tube. And I sat the rest of the time. Greg never fell out, but it looks like he should have here. And then you'll see another time with him where he completely disappears. Right there. Video, this is me. I was the first one through this part. I did just fine. And those you see a bunch of people flip. And Greg is coming. There. No problem. So now we've gone, eaten lunch, and we've come out to do the canopy tour, which is mostly zip lining. It was really fun. It made a neat noise as you went down. They gave us all the equipment. Greg and I were first because we were getting pictures taken, so it went really fast and was very efficient, except for one point where we had to wait around for a little while after we did the rock climbing. This had a little slide, but the slide wasn't very greased, so it took a little while to get going. Now we're going to be jumping off this platform, and I was first, so I hadn't seen anybody do it, so I wasn't sure what was supposed to happen. Then once you're down there, you have the option of climbing back up on the rock, where you can see me just getting started there. They had you secured, and I think probably helped a little bit pulling you, but it was still pretty fun and not that hard. I was surprised how fast I got up. I'd never used those handholds to climb before. Greg was very good as well. We had to wait there for a while. As you can see, the platform's pretty full, and then we zoomed across. This was the Tarzan swing. I thought they would just let me go right there. Swung back. Again, I was the first one going every time, so I didn't know what was supposed to happen. It was a lot of fun. And the staff were great. Very helpful. So we're all done there. As we were walking back, we decided to go on a little hike. They had the little half-mile trail to the red pond and the turquoise pond. And then I went on a hike later and tried to go to a waterfall, but found out on the way it was closed. Next morning, we left early for Monteverde. Our guide and driver, Guillermo, took a long time to get us there. Then we ate lunch. That night, we went on a walk in the jungle at night, which was neat. And then this is the El Tigre Nature Reserve, which was relatively near Monteverde. You can see just the top of the volcano there, and very pretty scenery. And we were up on the top, and then you had to walk down into the jungle, and they had built a bunch of hanging bridges, and there were lots of waterfalls as well. I think 8 waterfalls in total, 4 big ones and 4 smaller ones. This has all been a dairy farm that they let rewild. This is a beautiful shot with the sun coming through the waterfall. There's a lot of spray. The bridges were very wobbly, and the scenery was very nice. I like being in the jungle. It was a lot of fun. All the guides told us everywhere we went, don't touch anything, because you never know what's going to be there. So you just had to keep your hands to yourself and not touch any trees or bushes. We hiked with a nice couple from Asheville, North Carolina, and there were a couple other people on the trails as well. This waterfall was particularly powerful. So you can see some of the other people joining us. This is a pretty spot as well. Classic old footage on the bridge. Really nice place to have a walk around. The trails are good. And then at the end we had a fairly long climb, 800 feet elevation change to the top. These same views as earlier. And then we had lunch, which was delicious, and I got some hot sugar water, which I'd never had before, which was really good. That afternoon we went just around the corner from where we stayed to the butterfly garden. We saw a bunch of butterflies. They like old plantains. That one has a beautiful blue wings when it opens, but I could never get a shot of them when they were open. It's kind of a classic Costa Rican butterfly. On the 5th day, again, early morning departure, and we took a small bus with a few other people to very rough roads down to the lake, got on this weird ferry. It took about 50 minutes on the boat to get to the next dock. Very primitive docks for as many times as these boats go. Unfortunately, the whole time we were there, Arenal, the main volcano, was in the clouds. That was a delicious Aztec soup. And then I went to the pool while Greg went to get a massage, and this little lizard came over. Everybody was talking about the lizard, and he was walking there, kept coming closer and closer to me, and then somebody walked behind it, and I thought he was going to come and jump in my lap, but he just went the other way then. Stayed there for a while and then moved on. That day we went to the hot springs again, and a different lizard was up there, and stayed there for a while we were in the water. Really nice there, very peaceful, not that many people, and good views. And then Thursday we went on the Hanging Bridges nature walk. We picked up again at our hotel, and we had a very pretty guide. Monica was very nice, and driver Steven, who had eagle eyes. They dropped us off here, and Monica took us through. She was using her special scope to take some of these pictures, and took this picture of Greg and I on the bridge. I took that one. The bridges were very high up, not quite as swingy, but still somewhat swingy, and obviously made out of metal. And you could see the streams and waterfalls, but the jungle was very thick, and this was also reclaimed land that they let rewild. Very, very lush, lots of different species of plants and trees, and not that much wildlife, but we did see a coati. This is a beehive of stingless bees. Make a special honey that's very expensive. And then it started to rain relatively hard, but I never put a jacket on. This waterfall was one of the nicer ones there. A couple of twists. Again, beautiful jungle. Then we went to another park that has a waterfall. His name escapes me. They had a hummingbird there, and then you can see that waterfall there. We had to walk down the stairs. There's 550 stairs, I'm going to count it. And there you could swim. So we knew that in advance. There's a basalt wall right along the path, right before you get to the waterfall. You can see the people down there getting in. I'd worn my swimsuit underneath my pants, and so I wouldn't have to change right in front of people. It was tough getting to the water. The rocks were slippery, so I wore my shoes right to the water's edge, and then got in. I was getting rocked around. Was glad to get out. On the other side, it was very peaceful, just a regular mountain stream, and people enjoying the warmth and water. As we were driving out, we saw this sloth in the tree, and Monica took these shots through her scope using my phone. So the thing in his back shows that it's a male, that area where the skin is deeper, that fissure. And he was moving around. This is a two-toed sloth. More active than you would expect a sloth to be. And then he laid out like that right at the end. It made me laugh and laugh to see him lying on the branch like that. As we were driving again, the driver spotted somehow this toucan in the tree, and so we were very excited. Greg wanted to see a toucan before we left. The toucan right now is not looking at us.
Look at myself. Yes.
Turn around.
Come on, Mr. Toucan. Collaborate with.
But Monica still got these pictures for me using her scope and my phone. This bird we saw, they called it a setu, but I can't find that in any books. That was on the way to the canyoning for Friday. This was big time canyoning. This drop here, 55 meters, roughly 170 feet. Pretty steep. So you started out on the rocks at the top and the bushes, and then as you got down, you started to hit a waterfall. Greg was to the right of me, and that was the side the waterfall was on. So you'll see he gets pretty wet. It takes a while to drop down 170 feet. So there the guys pulled me in, and Greg is still in the waterfall. And finally, you can see the guy at the top that's going to pull him towards him and get him on the ground. And there we are, triumphant. Then we had to climb this weird ladder. I did it all wrong, but still got it up. And everybody made it. There was one woman who had a hard time that was talking with us a lot. She finally made it up there. This was a drop into the canyon. Again, perfect rappelling technique.
All yours, my friend. Dale.
I thought I would be able to go right through the gap, but there was a lot of swing, and they kept stopping me, and it was jerking me. I was trying to go really fast, but they wouldn't let me. You didn't have too much interaction with the waterfall at the bottom, just a little bit wet there. It was pretty cold in the water, and then you'd be cold standing around waiting for everybody. We were with a fairly large group. There are 14 people maybe. There are 8 from another group that went before us, and they didn't really talk to us much or have anything to do with us, and they ate their lunch at a different place. But we got to know this other group. They were from North Dakota, I think. And there was one guy from Romania who's kind of a jerk. He kept telling me he didn't want to get wet. He almost walked off at one point when they told him he had to. This is me, monkey drop. So you started out on a zip line, and then the zip line falls off, and then you fall down, and you control your fall, and you land in this pool. And I really dropped hard in there, made a big splash. There's Greg. They made a yell, and then you go. So the people who didn't want to get wet, they would swing them to the side. That was the end of the fun there. There was a couple other things we did, but nothing on video. And then that afternoon, we went to La Fortuna with Aranel nearby. And Greg got another massage, and I went for a walk. And then we ate dinner together. That's actually not Greg. It's a joke.